Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. As you can see, it's night here in Casita Intihuatana. Can you hear the noises of the night? Maybe the crickets are singing. We had some rain today, the first rains in the season, so it's feeling different. It's feeling great tonight. It's full of animals flying around. I'm Rama Flores, and I'm receiving you in this. I think this is the fifth encounter. We had 3 classes and a chat encounter last week, and we're gonna start the second part of this free training. This place we create to share some of the wisdom we received from our masters of the Andean tradition. I wanted to tell you I want to take some minutes to tell you why we are doing this. You know, we just arrived from Peru. We had the pilgrimage there for almost a month, walking the path of the mystical Andes. We had so many intense experiences. We took part of this way of listen to the landscape in a very particular way. So it was so intense and beautiful that we wanted to share some of it with you. In some way, we are enchanted on this way. So when I say we, me, and many others, want to raise the voice to tell you that this way, this path, has so many answers to the questions we have now as humankind, not just my particular questions. As humankind, this way could help us to recover those agreements that we lost at some point, taking these decisions that brought us to these situations. I mean, we talked about this in the first class last week. We developed many abilities. We found deep understanding of nature, but with the aim of controlling it, to main nature, to control it, and to find ways to avoid uncertainty. That's humankind, as you can see, your life and humankind behavior, generalized behavior. So in that willing to take control of the uncertainty in any kind, in any way of life, we are getting to some kind of limits, boundaries. We call it crisis, ecological crisis, political crisis, religious crisis, financial crisis, health crisis. I mean, breaking points where we as humankind could have the possibility to assume some changes, assume some changes, or suffer the changes. In the Andes, they see the time as a cycle that is flowing in spiral. It seems to come back, but it's not in the same position. If you see the spiral is going up or downward, it's drawing circle, but it's not coming back to the same point. So that cycle, big cycle, is called Pachacuti. Pachacuti. It's a very interesting word. Pachacuti. That Pachacuti, the translation for this is when the existence turns, how to say that in English? Like changes completely. It turns, it comes back to something different, completely different. So Pacha existence, Kuti is like turn around. So the turnaround existence, this Pachacuti, it happened during the times on previous to the Columbus arrival. They registered changes, and this Pachacuti is cycle. So we are in some way ending some cycles and starting new ones. So we had, you and me, in our lifetime, maybe in the next 20, 40 years, we're gonna see many changes. We're gonna live many changes. We are actually experiencing right now. So we think that the Andean tradition, as many other traditions that are rooted in the landscape, as I like to call it, rooted in Pachamama, in Gaia, in Mother Earth, these traditions could help us to take the right decisions, to guide my life and our life as a community to recover harmony in all those areas we just called: social area, economical area, political area, health area, philosophy area. Well, you name it. We are experiencing this. Whatever we like it or not, we are experiencing this Pachacuti. So we had this first module last week. We talk and we practice about the language of the earth, as we need to talk with Pachamama to agree, to find the new agreements. We need to talk. And we talk about that natural language, that way to talk with the earth. And we share some of the ways we can talk with Pachamama. And that conversation, that dialogue, is not just passive. We have something to say, and Pachamama is saying something to us. In that dialogue occurs the agreement. We find a way to share space and time, to share existence. So we need that agreement to come back and share the landscape. Share the landscape with others, with other human beings, but not with just human beings. We need to share in more harmonious way with the rest of the beings around us. So what a challenge. We had this 3 days module, Chakana, Kanchari, and Munai. We had little ritual related to Chakana, the idea of getting in touch. We had this practice about Kanchari, the way of to shine. And we had this practice of offering, offering our attention, offering our admiration for the beauty of life. So we had this offering, this Haiwarikui. And today we're going to start this second module talking about tales, stories, and the importance of stories, myths, legends, uh, to talk, to imagine that that's the way of recovering a very gentle way to recover philosophy, uh, mystical knowledge and wisdom, magical wisdom. The myth and the stories are the vessels, the holders of the tradition. And in a very simple and you can say childish way, we tie our present to the past and tie the present to the future, so we stabilize timeline. As a ritual, every time you tell a story, for example, you are in your dinner table with your children and you talk about story in your childhood. You are using your memory to remember a story related with your parents or with your friends or with your grandfather. Every time you tell a story, that story, maybe everyone knows it, but you make little changes in that story to actualize, to update that story, to make it important for the present. And at the same time, you connect it to the past, to your memories, and suddenly it affects in the future, because the future needs to be stabilized by the past. I mean, I'm just making, using that idea, making it more complicated. Every time you tell a story, you are part of a chain, you are part of a spring or river of experiences that help us to be part of a lineage, meaning people dreaming and trying to give to their children the ideas that they think they worth to be shared. So every time you tell a story, you are renewing the pact with your past, with your ancestors. And related to that, today we're going to talk about the first part of this module is related to Ukhukpacha. Ukhukpacha. I love to share the beautiful language, the Quechua language, because in the language, in the proper language, you can understand and visualize the philosophy of a culture. So, Ukhukpacha, beautiful word. Pacha, as I said many times, is existence. Pacha, existence. Ukhuk, the translation is the inner. It's related to the inner quality. So, the inner existence, inner or lower, you can say lower, but actually, Ukhuk is inner, to the inside. So, Ukhukpacha, you can translate it as the inner existence, to the inside, to the lower, uh, inside the Mother Earth, inside us as well. I was trying the last week, I was trying to show you that Pachamama as landscape, you can see it in your own body. This is Pachamama and this is the landscape. Your body is the landscape. So inside the landscape is inside the Pachamama, Ukhukpacha. So it's inside the inner aspect. Thank you for joining me, Nas, in this little silent, uh, helping us to just have a little pause. Okay, so Ukhukpacha, it's the lower or the inner aspect. The Andean tradition help us to understand the world in dual aspects. The opposites all the time are playing and dancing or fighting. It depends on the situation. The opposites could have a war or could have a dance and make love. So if we see it in a vertical way, Ukhukpacha, it's under the ground, it's related to Pachamama, is related to the earth, is related to the underground. And Hanakpacha, which is, we're going to talk about it tomorrow, Hanakpacha, the upper and the outside. Upper part, outside, the sky, the father, masculine. Ukhukpacha, feminine. So, Ukhukpacha, the lower part of our body, if we can see it in the vertical way, but we can see it to the inside. Hello, hola, 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 Clara Luz. You can see it to the inside. In another reference, we can see it to the inside. So Ukhukpacha is related to the deep, fertile, abundant, enriching, I don't know if you can say that, nourishing and black soil. The blackness, the darkness is related to Ukhukpacha. And now I need to give you an advice about this. Most of us that are influenced by this common culture, the global culture, the dominant culture, make all the darkness and the blackness and all the dark aspect a bad thing or something to avoid, something to run out of it. We don't like the dark or the darkness. If you remember any kind of tales, darkness is like the bad guys, the villains. This is related to the backgrounds of the relationship with the Christianity and Jewish traditions that are ascendant philosophies and religions. They, the Jews, the Christianity, the Islam is looking to the sky, is looking to the light, is as an ascendant religions. They are looking for the unity, the light, and God as the representation of that light. So all the darkness, all the black and mysterious aspect of the life is to avoid, is to run out. And that is related as well to our own body. Our body is the soil. I had this metaphor of the landscape, the place you live, and this landscape is the same thing. Many of those ascendant religions avoid the relationship with the body. The body is the flesh and is the desires and is the bad thing, is the duality. So everything related to the existence is in some way something to avoid. We are trying to reach the paradise, which is full of light and is clean and is white. And the darkness of the embodied life, we're gonna transcend when we die. That's the metaphor used by these religions. But actually, the Andean traditions and all those traditions that are related in a harmonious way with the earth, with Mother Earth, are duality traditions that are trying to find a way to connect sky and earth. Ukhukpacha, then, is one of the aspects, is the aspect related to the existence. Pachamama, as I said, Mama is mother, Pacha, existence. Existence, space and time. Space and time, like two opposites that are joining together to create existence. As we can see, all the aspects related to our body, to the physical expressions of our body, and the physical expression of our landscape are opposites dancing together or sometimes fighting together. So, masculine, feminine, day and night, hot and cold, all those expressions of dualities, they bring the possibilities of existence. Existence is related to totality. Everything matters. Everything is abundant and is diverse. The diversity is related to Ukhukpacha, like ocean of expressions. That expressions in the Andean traditions is feminine. Like existence is the feminine womb that is creating all the diverse entities in our universe. So totality, in that sense, is the other expressions of unity, we're going to see it tomorrow. Unity as one, the light and the sky and the Father Son. This part, this lower part, this inner part, Ukhukpacha, is related to the expression of having a body, and a body that deals with desires and anguish, deals with love and fear, deals with the relationship with other beings. So Ukhukpacha, in a psychological aspect, is related to our unconscious. The unconscious is this abundant, rich, and for some theories, the guide of our ideas, expressions, even words. If you read Lacan, he's saying everything you say comes from the unconscious. So if the unconscious, if you follow me, is this Ukhukpacha, if this Ukhukpacha is Pachamama, so the unconscious is Pachamama. So we're saying that there's a duality in the existence. The name in Quechua language is beautiful. Of this duality is Yanantin. Yanantin. It's a beautiful word because Yana, the first bit, Yana, is a word with so many meanings. Yana is the word for black, the color, black, and at the same time means lover, means helper, someone who gives help. So Yanantin, if you translate it literally, means darkness. Darkness. Yanantin means darkness. And Yanantin is expressions of masculine and feminine together. Masculine and feminine, cold and hot, the opposites dancing together, trying to find the complementarity between the opposites. Yanantin is a proposal to find a way to complement with the other. The complement to the other. So Yanantin is expression of relationship. And the lower world, or the inner world, Ukhukpacha, it's symbolized by animals. In the Andes, they represent the lower world and the inner world with a serpent. They call it Amaru, Amaru, Amaru. But that's the expression of a god of the Ukhukpacha, the god of Ukhukpacha, Amaru. And at the same time, there's another animal, the frog. It's called Hampatu. Hampatu. The reptiles and the amphibians that crawl in the soil. They are the representations of the inner and lower world. They're crawling in the ground. And I had a very interesting story about Amaru. The proper translation of serpent is that's what's interesting in my country. Yana is girl's name. Wow. Yana is a beautiful and very expressive name, Sophia. In Quechua, you call it to your lover, you call it Yanai, my lover, my Yanai, Yanai. To your lover, to the person you love, your loving companion, Yanai. And that lead to very how to say this, controversial expression, because the people who had roots in Quechua language, they translated to Spanish as negrito, negrita, like black, blackie, or like blackie. My lover, or the people I love, like negrito, like black person. And for some, that's a very common expression, a very friendly and loving way to call someone in your family, or a friend, or even a lover, to call it negrito, negrita, and it's used in all South America. And for people who are unaware of it, they could feel it like racist, but actually is related to this Quechua language root that is related to this yananting, to the expressions of the opposites, complementary opposites. So I'm drinking some mate. This is Argentinian and Brazilian and Paraguay, Uruguay drink. Is like tea, beautiful. So I had a very interesting story. I used to live in Argentina. When we started our movement, spiritual movement, we wanted to share the wisdom living in the countryside. So we wanted to find a place to live together in the countryside. And we had this property in a very arid land in Argentina. My family, I grew up there, so I knew that it was gonna be tough. But we decided, like in 2009, to live there and create and found the first we call it comunidad campesina, like I don't know if it's farm, it's peasant community in that place. It's called Casa Mama. So we found this place, we created this place, and this place is in an arid land, and there was not, we didn't have water in the place, so we needed to bring water in our car, driving in our car with bottles and little tanks for many years, like 4 years. The first 4 years, we didn't have any kind of water, so it was tough. It was very tough. And finally, we had a very odd experience. Sorry, Sofia, yes, to not Spanish speaking, it might sound racist, but luckily I know Spanish a little bit. Great, Sophia. So we had a very odd and rare and interesting experience. I woke up in the morning in our little house. We recently built a new room, like the kitchen, with mud. We built this house with mud, and we just finished that wall. And I woke up very early, like 5 in the morning, and I was preparing my mate. And I look up in the top of the wall that it wasn't finished. There was a gap, and in that gap, I saw like a piece of cloth, like dark green and brown piece of cloth, and I thought, "What's that?" It was a bit dark in that early morning, and I saw that's weird, and I got close to it, and I find out that it was the womb and the belly of a massive snake, a very big snake. It's called in Spanish called lampalagua. It was very big, like a piton, piton, like boa. I think boa is in English. Big, big snake. And when I realized that it was a snake, because the head and the tail was outside of the room, and in the inside it was just the middle of the body, the belly. When I realized that it was snake, I called all my family and my friends that we were living in the community there. So we didn't know what to do with this massive and potentially dangerous animal. Actually, it's not not too danger. It's not poison snake, but it's big, and we used to be afraid of snakes. So we were like respecting the presence of this animal. So after that, my mother, that was there, asked me, please take it out because we have children here. We can't live with this kind of animal in our kitchen. And I say, okay, I'm gonna try. So I was poking, like touching with this stick, this snake, and the snake slowly came down to the outside through like bamboos that were lying in the wall. She came down slowly, and I realized how big she was. It was like 4 meters long. And she came down slowly, and she created like a circle with the body. And I was like poking her to make her, to say, please go away. You can't be here. But suddenly she looked at me and she said, ah, with a noise that, how to say it? You can't be unaware of that noise. It was very frightening noise. And I realized that I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. So the snake crawled up again to the same place. She went up and she laid down in the top of the wall. And I said, all right, I'm gonna leave you there. So we spent the day, all day long, the snake in the wall. Then we, at the end of the afternoon, we went out for something to buy something in the city. We were like 10 kilometers out of the city. When we came back, the snake wasn't there anymore. We never saw again that snake. Then the day after, we had the news that we could use some fund to pay for the to make drill our land to find water. Weeks after, we found this old farmer who had the ability to feel the water currents underground. So we had this crazy experience with this guy. 90 years. He was a very old man with a stick in his hands, and he felt the water in some point on our terrain. So after 4 months, after all the drilling and the constructions of the well, we had water. So after that, we realized that the presence of that snake was the presence of Yakumama. 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 It's a beautiful name. Yaku means river and mama, mother. The mother of the river, like the fluent waters in a representation of the mother. So we had the presence of Yakumama blessing us and helping us to find water. So, believe it or not, we never found a snake like that in this arid place. These kind of snakes, Lampalawa, are related to wet areas, not arid areas. So that was a very real, very present expressions of the spirit of the monte, as we call it, monte, like the forest. Yeah, Sophia said she could be terrified. Yes, that's it. We were as well, but at the same time, that kind of snake was enchanting us with the presence. It was not just terrifying. We had many situations with snakes there, some of them even dangerous, but this one was like surprising, mysterious, more than terrifying. And I would like to tell you a myth, a very interesting myth about yarn. Yarn meaning the wool yarn, the threads that the ponchos and the different kind of fabrics they make. You know, as I said, our masters, our master from Keros Nation, they are farmers and they are master handcraft of weaving. So the yarn is a metaphor of the individuality inside a web or a fabric or a weaving inside of the weaving. So this myth is about the the starting of the tradition of making the thread, making the yarn. So this story starts in a very old times. A couple had this girl, beautiful girl, and she was so beautiful and intelligent and diligent than that the parents didn't want to give her away to another man because they were just trying to hold her. And she was arriving to the youth that is the possibility to find the couple and go away. So they were trying to hold her in a very far away house in the mountains. So this girl, at some point, wanted to, you know what I mean. She wanted to find her love. So she went to a lake, a little lake, near her house. And as she was taking water for the house, she found a very beautiful man, a gentleman with a beautiful dress. And she was first surprised and then enchanted for this young man. So they started to talk, and she suddenly realized that this guy was her love. But she couldn't say that to her parents. So every time she went for water to the lake, she met this guy, and they started this hidden love around the lake in the backs of her parents. At some point, her mother said, she's acting weird, strange. Maybe she's hiding something to us. So he tied a thread to her waist as she was sleeping. And when she went to the lake, she met this man, and this man invited her to the inside of the lake, to his kingdom, because he was a prince of the underground, the Ukhukpacha. He was the prince, and he could give her many treasures and dresses and rings. So she went down the lake with him, and in his kingdom they make love. And when she came back, her mother was with the thread, and she realized, the mother, that the girl was in a relationship with this guy. And the mother says, this is Amaru, the prince of the Ukhukpacha, a serpent. He actually is a serpent. So they took her back and closed her in a room. And then she realized that she was pregnant. So she was pregnant for all those months, calling for her love. and sad about being taken away. And when she got birth, I think that's the way to say it, her children were snakes with different colors, and they became the yarn for the weaving. So from that moment, the woman started to use the yarn to create the fabrics and the colors, the diversity of the colors help them to tell stories about love, about traditions, about the wisdom of the land, the wisdom of the mother. So that story link the weaving to the Ukhukpacha, the weaving to the mother, the weaving to the serpent, like the yarn is a symbol of like a serpent that with other serpent together creates the fabric. And inside the fabric, they produce the contrast. They are specialized in using contrast with colors. The contrast is the opposites together in harmony. So they use contrast to tell stories, to create palyai. Palyai is the figures inside the poncho, the figures inside mastana, the different shapes and symbols that represent some kind of stories inside the weaving. So that's the myth of the yarn, and is related to the Ukhukpacha. You know, in the Andean healing traditions, there's a very special healer. It's called Moskok. Moskok. I'm sorry, Sophia asked something. What an interesting and beautiful story. If I remember correctly, the Aztec built Tenochtitlan in the place where they saw an eagle eating a snake. Yes, well, you know, the people of the land, they see the animals that are telling stories about the cosmovisions and the way of we as we understand life. So the serpent is crawling in the ground, so it's related to the lower world. The condor is flying in the clouds, so it's representation of the sky. So the animals are representations. The animals are symbols of what we are trying to understand in a simple way, not philosophical or complex way, argumentative way. So I say that there are special healers. It's called Moskok. Moskok. They are dreamers, soñadores in Spanish, dreamers, healers that use the like unconscious navigators, going to the unconscious to find in the richness of the unconscious the ways to connect with the answers we are trying to get in this part of the day, actually, not just life, the day. We had a part of the day that we are just submerged in the unconscious when we are asleep. So when we wake up, we have some questions, and sometimes the answers are in the dark side. the unconscious. So some of the some of the healers, these special healers, are dreamers, finding the answers in the unconscious. So it's a bit late. I'm sorry. I was just telling a lot of stories. I have so many more related to the Ukhukpacha, related to the Machakwai. Machakwai is the name. Macha. That's the proper name of the snake. Machakwai. Machakwai is a serpent that appears in a very highlands. It's the only one that appears in the highlands, and it appears in the wet seasons. And the serpent, is like rainbow colored. It's like I don't know how to say it in English. Tornasol. It's changing with the light of the sun, and it reminds you to the rainbow. The rainbow, it's another expression of Amaru. It's like a snake in the sky, but not just a sky. The rainbow, it's an expression of the earth growing to the sky and coming back. So it's a snake that goes to the sky and comes back. When a rainbow appears, I think I said it in the last week, it's when Mother Earth and Father Sky are making love through this snake. So the snake, in the same way as other traditions, like the Indian tradition, the snake is a symbol of sexuality, of fertility. At the same thing, the season of the humid lands, the humid period, is fertility. It's the time of the year where everything grows, and the alpacas and llama make love to give birth in the next season. And at the same time, this is very interesting, Machakwai it has a representation in the sky. You know, in this time of the seasons, there are gaps in the night. You can see constellations and the accumulations of stars in the night, but they are like black gaps. They call it Yanapuyu. Yanapuyu is like literally black clouds, where these black gaps, they assume as different forms in the sky. And this black gap in a strip, it seems like a snake, and it appears in the same season that appears the Machakwai, the serpent, literally the serpent in the ground, and the same season that appears the rainbow. So there's a Machakwai in the ground, there's a Machakwai in the sky, and there's a Machakwai in the sky. Everyone are connected. So closing this model, because we are getting to 7 in Brazilian time, it's 5 p.m. East time. We as we are part of this dominant culture that are fighting against the existence, they are fighting against having a body with desires. We have so much contradiction, so many contradictions related to having a body. We need to learn from the traditions that deal very well with those contradictions. Actually, they love contradictions. The contradictions, when they find a place of touching the opposites, they find a place of touching, that contradiction becomes a dance. That ambiguity, ambivalence becomes a dance, not a confrontation, not a conflict, but a dance. So I hope you enjoy these messy stories in English, and I hope you join us tomorrow. We're gonna talk about Ukhukpacha, the sky, and the exterior, the outside world, not just the upper world, but the outside. If you see it in your body, the Ukhukpacha, it's inside. The outside is the Ukhukpacha. So tomorrow we're gonna tell stories, gonna give share stories about Ukhukpacha. So thank you for joining us. Urpichai Sunkochai, and see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. ETH time. We're gonna send some notices in the WhatsApp group. So goodbye and see you tomorrow. Urpichai Sonkochai.